People are amazing. And this world has a large supply of incredible people doing incredible things that have a story to tell. Stories that encourage, inspire, and are just plain interesting. Join us on the 1st and 15th of every month as David Dispinette meets with interesting and inspiring people that, well, he just wants to talk to.
This is the book, right? I have not got a chance to dive into it.
Yeah, that is the book. I need to reread it. I've read it like 2 or 3 times.
Really? Is it really that good?
It's
What did you get out of it? Like, what was the most, or what really hit it home for you on that book?
like the things that the author offers are tangible things you can take away and just like start using them, right? And you do have to kind of take a lot of the stuff with a grain of salt because most of the research that the book dives into is on animals and rats and things of that nature, right? Which we have a lot of relation to, but at the same time, like we exist in a chaotic world. We don't have control over these things. But the things he offers about how you control your light, how you control your sleep, how you control your feeding times, and how you control your movement and exercise. Like we can all control those 4 things.
Right.
Right.
So is it trying to teach you to be more disciplined, or trying to teach you like another way to look at it so that maybe it works for you?
Right. Yeah. A different perspective of how these things, number one, like what's the effect on your physiology and biology?
Okay.
And the examples he gives are just like every time you read a new one, it's just, you're like, I do that. I've done that before.
Oh, so you can also associate with
you
things
associate
in the books.
really well, which is, I think, the great part about that book because I've been in that situation. Like, man, I felt terrible, right? I know how that feels. I'd probably don't want to feel like that again.
And it's kind of like, well, this is maybe why that's
happening. It's like, well, what's your sleep like? Are you viewing light deep into 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night? That's going to affect your sleep cycles, right? Are you even seeing the sunrise or some light in the morning? Are you getting light exposure in the morning? Are you feeding erratically throughout the day, especially later into the night where you're never getting your gut or your intestinal tract chance to replicate and repair itself, right? What we need. How are you using exercise? Is it an optimal time during the day? Are you not doing it at all?
I just do it when I can.
Yeah, right.
Right, whenever it fits in my schedule.
Yeah, which usually works. And then, but sometimes if we're pushing it too late in the evening, then it affects that sleep cycle, which can affect essentially everything else, right? So just I love it because it's all tangible, usable stuff that we have control over, and it's zero cost.
Okay.
Right. So it's like, and you get immediate benefit from it because you notice feeling better.
Well, sleep is huge.
Yeah.
I know people say sleep is huge, but I can firsthand. This summer, I wake up a lot at night. I have a kidney issue.
Okay.
But nothing serious. It's an autoimmune disease, but it causes me to urinate multiple times a night sometimes. And we found that what was happening is I just wasn't sleeping well because I was waking up 2 or 3 times, 4 times. But I've been doing this for years. And then I started having like these anxiety issues out of nowhere. I'm like depressed and anxiety, but it's out of nowhere. It just doesn't explain. Life's good. Like everything's great for the most part. Like you look at my life, like, I'm happy, I'm good. So I went and saw a psychiatrist, and my mom's a nurse, and talked to them, and they put me on something called trazodone, which is I guess a mild sleep sedative. It was used for antidepressant and sleep. They found that it really worked better as a sleep sedative than as like an antidepressant. And I started taking that, and then I started sleeping the whole night, like not waking up to use the restroom. And within like 2 or 3 days, I was like everything was gone. And I really think it was due to the fact that like for maybe 5-10 years, I've been sleeping so bad it finally caught up with me.
Yeah, which just shows you kind of if you look at it from a different perspective, how amazing the body is that it can handle that kind of stress for that long before it's just like, that's enough, right? And then it shows some signs of, hey, we need to change something. But
right, exactly. But everything in general, business, everything just got better after that. Like I think it was because I was all of a sudden more focused, and like I could, I think I wasn't remembered. Like I think it really affected me.
100%.
And like after all that went away, I started getting good sleep. Like work became more efficient. Like so everything in general just got better. So I think that could have been a huge part.
Huge part. Yeah.
So that's people out there sleep. I have one client that she sleeps 4 hours a day, and that's it. She works and sleeps 4 hours a day, and she does work out, but she constantly has major issues with her body where they're doing surgeries. And I really...
Yeah, I know, right? And it's so cool when you start... I don't know enough about it. I just know kind of the peripheral with sleep, but even like the breakdown of your sleep throughout the night, like the first 4 hours is basically just going through repairing of all the cellular and biological processes from the day. And then after that, it's like, hey, let's actually get you ready for the next day. So like if you have like a night of drinking or whatever, and you sleep really great those first 4 hours and then wake up and you can't get back to sleep, like you're just toasted yourself for the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
if I drink the night before,
Done.
I've already I've accepted that next day, very little production.
Very little.
Unless I absolutely have to. And then it's like a mental, like I'm forcing my body to be like, sorry, it's like, this is the decision you made. You had to do this today. But then you're just uncomfortable the whole day doing whatever you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that even shows you, it heightens your awareness of, wow, not only did, well, number one, alcohol have an effect on that, but the breakdown of those hours of sleep, they're different. The brain waves are different.
Right.
The cellular processes that happen during those hours are different. Which
Do you
gives
use a smartwatch at all?
I don't.
Okay. I was wondering if you've ever tracked your sleep and like look at those metrics.
Yeah. I don't like any of the 5Gs on my body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that could be potentially harmful to the body?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't need to go down any crazy rabbit holes, but
Well, this stuff hasn't been around long enough for us to know, like me and everybody in the last 10 years that have started doing it, that we'll know like in our, like late in our lives, if it affected us, right?
Right.
And two, we'll have more, we just, it's so new. Same thing with COVID. Like,
I know, right?
like so much has already come out, like the masks weren't really that big of a deal. And like certain things didn't help that we made a big deal about. But again, we weren't going to, I guess, know that till we tried it and or had enough time to research it.
Yeah.
Granted, a lot of stuff that happened during COVID seemed like common sense to me.
Exactly. Probably should exercise, get some vitamin D, get some sunshine.
They're just now starting to promote weight loss and healthy eating.
Imagine that.
That's what I was going to talk to you. I saw a commercial, and I was going to bring it up and show it to you. I can't remember what it was, but pretty much it was talking about how people with diabetes and people that are overweight and certain things have a higher risk of getting COVID. Mm-hmm. But then they gave a number of how many people are at high risk in America, their number, and they said like 225 million people. So I went and looked because I was thinking we're around 300 million something, right? I think we're
330 or something.
Yeah,
like
330, 315, something like that. So what they're telling me in this commercial is that 85% of the population, well, that's not 85, but
It's
like
up there.
65 or 75% of the population is obese or has a major thing. So either they're trying to get more people and just making up some stupid number, or this.
That's legit. Those are legit numbers, man. It's scary.
You think it's that high?
Oh, for sure.
You think it's?
When's the last time you went outside and just looked around? It's hard to find a fit person.
Oh my god!
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm fit, but I wouldn't say I'm the healthiest because of the food that I put in my body. Sometimes, like I could be much better than I am. Like I eat fast food at least twice a week.
Okay, well,
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not eating. You know what I mean? So, but yes, you're right.
you are very cognizant and aware of your choices, though.
Oh yeah, I feel
Right.
guilty about them after I eat them.
Well,
During, I'm just like, it's so good. There's a reason it's good, but
well, everything in moderation. So if you break down all your meals and you're eating however many meals per week, and you eat, less than 5% of your meals from that source,
right.
you know what I mean? It's probably not having that big of an effect.
I
on
love
things.
food. I've realized that about myself. If I can admit that I'm addicted or anything that I'm obsessed with, it is food.
Got to fuel the body.
And I like when we go on vacation, I'll spend 80% of the money that I spend on going out to eat every day because I'm like getting fish or like trying a different restaurant. Like I just love eating food. But I found that what works best for me, if I eat 70 to 80% clean, like when I'm trying to eat in a little, like 20% where I still have a little sugar throughout the week and I'll still maybe have a slice or two of pizza or something like that I really like that's not healthy. I find that works best.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have some kind of food is a great way for experiencing culture, yourself, your surroundings. Sometimes you got to throw a little wrench into this system.
I live to work out so I can eat.
Yeah.
So what are you doing training wise these days?
I just I just had my third baby when my wife did.
I was about to say that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You may be very unique.
Very unique. But so I kind of have to back off a little bit the last 6 or 7 weeks because I can sleep, right? Being a issue, trying to get recharged for the next day. But I still kind of do a little bit of everything since we chatted, probably very similar. Okay. Mix in barbell, kettlebell, a little bit of dumbbell. But it's still geared towards like just overall strength and noticing that strength throughout the day. Like,
so do you just learn to work around the kids?
Oh yeah, they're usually right with me the whole time.
There's a lot of people with 3 kids that says they don't have time.
Yeah. Well, I just put up in my stories yesterday on my social medias. I had my 6-week-old in her little chair wrapped up in a like a fleece blanket in my garage, and my other 2 boys running everywhere around me the whole time.
Put them to work. How old are they?
6 and 3.
Yeah.
And my 6-year-old loves it. Like, I've got some 5-pound dumbbells. He just mimics everything I do with those.
Supposedly, and I don't know if you've done any more if you've done any research on this, but what I've read, that they're not 100% sure that that strength training or muscle growth is necessarily going to stunt a younger person's height and stuff.
Yeah, I think
didn't they believe that at one point in time?
They believe that at one point in time. And there's been a lot of research. I've had the luxury of meeting a gentleman a long time ago who did a lot of research in kids and exercise and like structured resistance training.
Okay.
Basically showing like, we're obviously not trying to work at a higher percentage of like their capacity. It's more about like, hey, can I teach them technique? Can I give them a resistance they can do 15 or 20 times? Obviously, they're going to build strength just through pure volume, right? And that has been a great way to improve coordination, strength, enjoyment for movement, all those things without affecting growth whatsoever. If anything, helping growth because you're synchronizing all metabolically and hormonally good things that can happen, right?
I would think.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, exercise promotes positive hormones in the body.
And if you look at 100 years ago, 6-year-olds were the ones carrying 50-pound gallons of cow's milk and baling hay and everything else. Like, what's the difference between that and lifting a dumbbell?
It's the said principle of said specificity or whatever, like adaptation.
Yeah, specific adaptation to
your
imposed
body
demands.
Will,
yeah.
I really do feel like to a certain extent, if you tell your body you're going to do this every day and this is how you're going to do it, and it doesn't like it, eventually it's just going to be like, I'm going to give in on this.
Yeah. Well, I think our bodies are made to move. We're meant to lift and move things, no matter what the age. Obviously, there's like some limits to that compared to what we're capable of doing. But from my train of thought is we should get our kids moving as soon as possible. And
what do you mean by that? By moving, like get them out, like
climb trees,
walking, just being
riding
active.
Bikes, getting dirty, lifting up rocks.
We weren't allowed in other people's houses when I grew up. We had to ask permission. We could go in, call home, and be like, "Can I go into Brad's house?"
Because you were dirty and dusty and everything else.
No, my parents didn't believe in video games, TV, movies, none of that stuff.
Same.
I had to beg to get my first cell phone, but I could hang out on the streets out in front of the house, over at buddies' houses outside. Like I could do whatever. I had to check in like every 30 minutes. I'd have to run home, 10 houses away maybe. Hey, Mom, I'm alive. Go back to Brad's house or whoever's I'm hanging out with. I just couldn't go in the house.
Right.
The only time I could go in is to use the restroom and to make a phone call. And looking back now, how the hell would my mom have even known if I was in their house? I could have totally lied.
You're right. Though.
She probably would have.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I did lie some, but
she's trying to like infuse subconsciously, like this is important. You need to be outside. Yeah. You need to be. You can make the choice and lie if you want, but
I remember playing like 5-on-5 two-hand touch football on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, no one does that. Like I don't even see kids on the street anymore.
I know, it's sad.
But my parents, we'd run around all over the place.
Yeah, same. It's good for you.
Yeah, but yes, I do think that kind of stuff translated. Like, I agree that it probably translated into me being more comfortable with being active. Like, we would hike and camp. Like, family vacations. When you have 5 kids, you don't got a lot of money.
Yeah,
but you got enough money for a tent, a vehicle, and food that you
get
can
out
cook.
there, man. Yeah,
and so they take us to campgrounds, and
there's nothing better than that.
Honestly, I looking back now, I hit my teenage years. I hated it. I'd tell my dad I'd rather hang out with my friends than go hiking with them. Looking back now, I'm like, man, screw those guys. I don't even talk to those people anymore.
I know, right? But they instill those values, and that's important.
But so, yes, I do think there's a lot to be said about that.
100%.
So I agree with you about getting kids out there, But you've also got to have parents that are also like, my parents were they've always been kind of active people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're like setting the tone. For me, I love having my kids around, and 90% of my workouts, they're on top of me the whole time. But that's important to me because I want them to, at some point, go to someone else's house and their parents don't work out, and I want that to blow their mind. Like, what do you mean your dad and mom don't exercise?
Well, and they're going to be way more comfortable going into the gym whenever it's time for them to start
Yeah. And my 6-year-old already does. I mean,
Yeah.
dude lifted up a 70-pound kettlebell, just straight deadlifted it the other day.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, just got right underneath of it and bam, lifted it up.
Do you show him do you show him form and stuff?
Yeah, he just watched me. Just through watching.
Kids are smart,
just
man.
through observation. Went in there and just ripped it straight up. I was like, okay.
Okay. You got a little.
And he's 6 years old and he's like, I don't even know what he weighs, 48 pounds or something
I
like
would have
that.
killed if I could have started my fitness journey in my high school years.
That'd be key.
Oh my God. I didn't really start till my late 20s. My real fitness journey. And I didn't really start till my mid 30s.
Yeah.
Like 31, 32.
It gives you a greater appreciation for it now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 36 years old and in many ways in the best shape, at least strength wise and I guess cosmetically. I probably in high school when I was an all-state swimmer was like cardiovascular wise.
Yeah.
My aerobic was probably
No doubt. No, probably not anywhere nearly as strong as you are now, but you could just swim for days.
I don't even think I could have back in high school. I bet you I couldn't even bench 135.
Put the big plate on there and try and do it.
Yeah. So
Right? Yeah, no, I would agree. It the strength training part is
right.
huge.
And that's really your big thing, right? That's kind of one of the things that most interests you about fitness and doing, your research. I guess we really haven't introduced you, but if you want to just give some of your credentials real quick before we dive into some of this, your thought process through strengths and nervous system, for those that did not watch the first podcast, which was amazing, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
It's the most listened to podcast on my channel.
That's
You're up by
wild.
like 10 views or something now.
Wow.
You're up to like 68 views now.
That feels good to know that people listen.
Well, your podcast continuously, out of all the other, some of the other ones too, but yours somehow continuously gets like so many views a week.
Isn't that wild?
Like you and the other guy that has the right next to you as far as views. I don't know what it is if people like know you or, but you guys continuously, like every week I'll see there's a couple views on your podcast and like these two other people's
That's
podcasts.
pretty cool.
So yeah, I guess people are finding it or whatever, or you're connected somehow, or someone promoted it and it's sitting on their page somewhere.
The interwebs. Yeah, right.
So I had someone, you know who Becca Pike is?
The name sounds familiar.
She does, she owns Massage Strong. And then she's like a life coach pretty much. And I think she does very well for herself, helping other people. But I was at the bar the other night and one of the bartenders was like, hey, Becca, whoever was talking about you or said something
Isn't that
about
awesome?
you. And I was like, what? And she's like, but anyways, because she knew I had a podcast.
Famous at the bar.
And she found my podcast by listening to one of Becca's podcast or something. Because she follows her. And then I came across her,
It's crazy. I don't understand how it works. I had a lady follow me on Instagram like 2 weeks ago. And I don't even know where she is. Never seen her before. Not even local. And she says she loves podcasts and finished up an episode of one of her favorite podcasts. And it said mine was the next recommended.
So she just went for it.
Just went for it. I was like, I listened. She was like, I listened to like 10 of them the last couple of days. It's great. I was like, holy cow. I have no idea how this works.
When
but
you
that's awesome.
find someone that you find interesting and you like what they're talking about and it resonates, like I send people that one you did with the female, what was her name, that How to Run Again.
Yeah.
I mean, that 30
Natalie.
minutes is so valuable to anybody that's trying to get back into it. The walking and it's a simple procedure or simple like protocol,
Right.
but it's like one that I don't think people would just think of they would have the patience
That's the
to
key.
follow the protocol.
That's the key.
Because she doesn't want you running for like 2 to 3 weeks or something like that, or full on running.
She was an interesting take because she will go 0 to 1,000, right? Because she likes to live in 1,000, which
Right.
is great. I'm all for it. But sometimes, the engine needs a oil change,
Yeah.
right?
Well, didn't she promote kind of walking and then jogging and
She
then
did.
running? And she was saying like running 2, 3, maybe even a month before you start like doing full on runs.
Yeah, I think when we first started, I was like, what are your thoughts if you don't run for 2 months? And that was kind of like a alarm.
that's about
that
to
was a
be
shock for
next
her,
week.
right? And I was like, maybe we know where this ends because this is like the third time you've done this, and what if we tried something different? And it's all it's hard for the human brain to sometimes realize that simple is usually the best.
Right.
Let's make it very simple. Let's understand it, and then have some patience with it. People don't like to have patience. We want to see results right now, right? But if you can stretch it out a little bit, it only helps in the long run. But sometimes, unfortunately, you have to hit like this point of like rock bottomness of like, I can't do this again. And, I'm going to try something different no matter how bad it sucks. And then all of a sudden 2 months later, I feel great. Let's go for it. You know,
sometimes you really do got to change it up.
you do.
So, well, I asked you this question, and then we just went off on a tangent. But what are some of your credentials? What are things that you're interested in? You have your own podcast, which is a really good podcast, as you guys heard us talk about it.
Yeah, so I guess a little brief history is I have 3 degrees, which is kind of silly, but the terminal one obviously is a PhD in exercise physiology. Had a lot of experience in research-wise cardiovascular fitness and health and all things in that realm, but at the same time I did a lot of work with exercise programming for tactical groups, which that kind of sounds fancy, but really it's just like a regular dude or gal trying to get fit to do a manual task, right? Which is kind of everybody.
Okay. Well, yeah, it sounds military based.
It was SWAT and fire and police and stuff like that, which was super fun to work with in that realm. But it really sparked my interest in like diving into and reading between the lines of what programming can be. And all the nuance with it.
You worked with firefighters quite a bit, didn't you?
I did. I worked with, for 4 years, that was really my main research with the firefighters.
So you were coming up with programs for them and then doing research on those programs
how
the result was?
A little bit. The main part of my research was I was trying to figure out, because obviously with anybody that exists in our culture, the number one cause of death is like heart disease or heart attack or whatever that might be, right? Well, firefighters, no difference. Over 50% are dying from essentially like a sudden cardiac death. So I was trying to figure out, well, we know these risk factors, but we can't pinpoint like, hey, let's change this and this to get this person healthier. So I was trying to develop this objective measure of their cardiovascular disease risk. And I was looking at like basically their fitness and their fatness. How fat, quote unquote fat, is the cutoff,
right? And
how much fit should they be, cardiovascularly to reduce or minimize this risk factor of this objective measure. It sounds very fancy.
That would have taken more than 4 years to do, right?
It took me 4 years to do.
And you had at least a working theory or answer?
Yeah, I had a really nice cutoff. My data looked really good. It was a really great study. It worked out awesome. Had the support of the Lexington firefighters, the whole department.
So did you get a grant, I guess?
No.
Or was this on the side from what else you were doing too?
No, it was my main research project.
Okay.
I had some monies that I got granted, but it wasn't like a big chunk of money. But I was a pretty good scrounger.
So what did you find? What was the ending results again? I'm sure we talked about it last time.
We did a little bit. It was a measure of your arterial stiffness.
Okay.
The stiffness of your aorta. It should have some measure of compliance. Like when your heart ejects blood into the aorta, it should stretch and expand. It was called pulse wave velocity.
Okay.
So I took a measurement of your carotid artery and your femoral artery. And we can know in that distance, we could see how quickly the pulse of when the blood ejects sends a wave through the actual material of your artery.
Okay.
And it goes down into basically your crotch where that artery bifurcates. It goes into 2 different directions, hits that center point and bounces back to the heart. That's normal. It should happen. It actually helps things in the heart work properly. Okay. But that rate at which it bounces back should be a certain speed. The faster it goes means your arteries are stiffer. Right? It's like a jump rope. If we hold a jump rope and I do the old wave, like in your 5th grade class, I do the wave thing and you watch the wave go and it kind of bounces back, right? If you pull that tighter, that wave goes back there and back really fast. Right? That's the stiffness effect. So as we age, our arteries become stiffer naturally, but you can kind of counteract that with exercise and fitness and food and all that kind of stuff, right?
Is it pumping more blood through your body constantly what keeps it less stiff?
Not necessarily. The effect of the blood
or the sedentariness of all the fat and everything that builds up
causes... the composition of your arteries will change depending on your lifestyle.
Okay.
Meaning that there are things that happen mechanically within the structure of your arteries. If you're sedentary, if you're less fit, if you're over fat, things will change, not for the better. It becomes more stiff, right? And that gives you a real number, gives you meters per second number of how quick that wave travels. And that wave, the speed of that wave relates to the disease risk of things occurring at the heart, like the actual number.
Right.
And so what I found was like these I had a cutoff point of like, this is your fitness level and this is your percent body fat level. If you're above this, you're in my unfit over fat group. If you're below this, you're in my fit normal weight group or whatever we want to call it, right? And essentially the group that was under fit and over fat had the arteries of a decade older population.
Oh, wow.
That was my main finding.
Did any of them take it serious enough and actually make changes in their life?
I think so. Once they got some of these data, it was kind of a wake up call. I mean, they kind of already knew, but I'm like, hey,
now they actually had something that says this.
That was the point. Like, I need to, because you can be like, oh, here's my blood pressure, here's my age, here's my, whatever you want to look at, traditional risk factors. It's hard to like compile that and understand where you actually are. But if I give you a number, here's this number, this is what it's showing you, like an immediate relation to what my level of health might be arterially, right? And I was just like, kind of an eye-opening moment for some of these guys.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. It was a neat study. It has nothing to do with exercise programming, but
no.
But it was like, hey, this is where your fitness needs to be. Number one, to do the job, right? Because the National Fire Protection Agency says like they recommend this level of aerobic capacity to do the job well. And aside from that, if you're breathing oxygen and you're using the mechanism within the face mask, that immediately reduces your capacity fitness-wise, aerobic fitness-wise, because there's a cutoff with how much the flow can come.
Right.
So when you're working at max capacity, you may not be getting max air, which means you bump down your fitness level in that moment.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
So it's like you need to be above what they're recommending if you're breathing air and you're doing something, maximal exertion-wise.
So mainly you got to start exercising.
Yeah.
Because
you just need to be fitter.
Yeah.
In all levels, which you should be if you're going to be doing you're trying to save someone's life and you might be climbing 20 flights of stairs, do your job and then get back down.
It's just, I think as people get old, like anything, people get older, they get jaded, not even necessarily jaded with their job. It's just what they do, and they've been doing it for so long, and they just get comfortable.
And I think the fire, I understand the need for the 24 hours on and 48 hours off, but that totally F's up everything biologically, circadian code, right?
Yeah.
Terrible for you.
If you're waking up in the middle of the night to go do a job.
It's terrible for you. They do wake up all the time. Like my neighbor is a firefighter, and it's just the effect of that 24 hours having to be on and waking up. You can't make up for that 2 days later, then get back into it. You're always in a state of just like jet lag, essentially.
Really?
Yeah.
And my brother just started with the fire department 2-3 months ago.
Yeah.
He's already gone through the school and everything. He's actually
cool.
riding an ambulance or a truck.
He's got the orange helmet on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he has to be training for like a year or something that.
Yep.
So he's very fit. I've always wanted to take that. The firefighting, like the test you got to take to even to take the test.
The CPAT.
CPAT, yeah. I want to go take that just to see.
It's easy.
Is it?
Well, they give you like so much time. There's some technical things in there that are challenging if you don't have the correct technique down. But like fitness wise, you could go blow that out of the water right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So programming, like you love programming. I love programming.
Yeah.
Let's talk programming.
I love it. Yeah. It's yeah. To the regular typical layperson, like that seems like the most boring thing ever. But I always look at it.
Anybody that's really working on fitness, though, programming is extremely important.
You start diving
to achieve
into
your
it.
goals.
Exactly. Because you just do the same thing. Obviously, you're going to get fit to a certain extent, but beyond that, you're working really hard to really see no improvement, right?
Right.
So I think first you have to have just a really elementary level understanding of what the nervous system looks like and how each thing can impact it.
Okay.
The nervous system, you want to think of it really simply is just like a waveform, like kind of like a sine wave. So it's like has a crest, has a peak, and kind of the middle of that wave is kind of like homeostasis, if you want to think of it that way. It's just like you and me chatting right now,
right?
Feeling pretty good, nothing's crazy, right? When you hit the nervous system with any kind of a shock or an alarm, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, whatever that looks like, you then start the dive, the bottom point of that curve. And that's where things are changing in the nervous system, whether it's like from centrally in the brain or spinal cord or things occurring down in the muscle, where we're trying to see like, hey, we did something. Let's get a check of what happened. What do I need to repair? What do I need to improve? What do I need to recharge? Right. And then that wave starts to come back up. And the whole goal of the programming component is that wave goes above that level of homeostasis into kind of a supra-physiological area where that's where you're trying to hit the next alarm, the next workout, the next whatever, right? So you're always trying to gauge like, if I do this workout, how deep does that wave go down alarm-wise? Because it's depending on how the intensity of the workout or the duration or their overall volume, that wave going down can go very small or can go way down, right? And the level of which it goes down is going to affect the duration of how long it takes to get back to the point where you want to go with another workout.
Okay. Oh, you're just talking about just recovery in general for the next workout.
Exactly, right? So you're trying to hit...
I guess that's why steroids are so beneficial, because they allow you to get ready for that next workout.
They can,
faster, right?
They can increase the rate of protein synthesis to where you're repairing things quicker and having more there.
But I guess you also got to make sure you're putting enough protein in your body for it to synthesize.
Your body can synthesize its own protein, right? But you do have to have some of the essential amino acids that we have to eat, right?
Do you take amino acids
I do.
Like a powder form or whatever?
Mm-hmm. One of my friends just turned me on to this not too long ago, a company called ProMix.
Okay.
Have you heard of this? Mm-mm. It's like probably the best ingredient wise in the quality of ingredients that I've seen on the market.
What are they, like $30-$40 a month?
No, I don't know what it is. You get 5 pounds of grass-fed whey protein for like $79.
Okay,
which is pretty good.
Oh, so protein.
It's whey protein, but it has all essential amino acids and has
the BCAAs and stuff.
Has everything. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So it's got a little bit of everything that you need.
Yep. And the ingredient wise, it's great. Like there's nothing.
I have to get you to send me that.
It's good.
Is it tasty?
It's pretty good. Yeah. And I also take just a maintenance level of creatine, like 5.
I do 10.
Do you do every day?
Mm-hmm. I listen to a guy. Do you keep up with any people that know? I listen to some guy that's kind of like, he seems like he's the creatine guy. Like he's done research on things and no one's done that research to back up if his research is correct or not. So he's like one of those guys that, this is what he thinks is what he believes. And he says that once you get that initial boost of creatine in, you can do 5, but he says your body probably can handle more, up to 10. So I'm like,
go for it.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to do any damage to my body.
No, your body naturally produces it.
Right.
Right.
And you get it from meat.
Well, it doesn't naturally. You get it from meat, right? So if you're eating, which I think it doesn't naturally produce it, but it's you get it from your meat sources. And I think what happened, just if you look at our timeline of humans, we probably had higher quality meat and ate more meat. I would previous years, right?
Meat was literally
everything.
The animal itself was healthier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when you killed it, you're cooking it right off the bat.
Exactly.
So there's no spices, so I would assume that it would be
I think
better quality.
I think back then, we probably ate enough, what we should have been eating to get the amount of creatine our muscles need for the activities being used for, right? It's in the phosphocreatine energy system, which is like the time where you're doing your sprinting or lifting heavy resistance or trying to do things quickly.
Well, he said it also helped with mental capacity.
That's the thing I started diving into was the proponent of in the central nervous system, specifically in the brain, where sometimes it is used for energy. But what I've been diving into on the creatine, which I started taking it's showing signs of increasing your cognitive capacity.
Okay.
Especially when you're fatigued or sleep deprived. So your ability to recall things or your ability to process things quicker has been shown when you're taking even just those 5 grams of creatine daily on top of your typical diet has been shown to be enough for the cognitive improvements. So that's what I really started diving into. It was but then obviously you notice it physically, which is
I think it's very, very beneficial. But like I said, I take the TRT, I take the creatine. I take Cardarine. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It was studied in the 90s. I'm just doing a one cycle. You buy it at a local supplement. It's kind of one of those SARMs in a manner of speaking. It seems to be the least, from what I've read and what research has been done, the least detrimental. There's not a lot of side effects that they've come across yet, but I definitely notice a difference. When I take it in my energy levels. So I stopped it for a week because I need to go get. You get a month and a half at a time. I'm doing 3 months, and I noticed that week doing a workout. I was like, man, I'm tired. This. And I was like, oh shit, maybe that stuff really helps.
Probably part of the concoction, part of the equation for sure.
Yeah. But I've done it before, but I'll just do it one time this year and
see what happens.
See how I feel when I come off of it. But creatine. So those are the 3 main things that I take that help. Then of course protein, your basic vitamins, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if you're exercising and specifically resistance training, having some obviously increasing. Like if you look at the research on protein, the consensus I found was that if you're resistance training, you probably need somewhere between 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight to 2. And I've even seen some research, people saying like, hey, 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. If you go above and beyond that, what we're eating and using, you're probably going to be converting some of that protein elsewhere because it's at a capacity where we can't use it anymore. So it's like, but for me, I'd rather have it in excess because if I need it, I want it to be there.
Yes.
Right.
But it's hard to eat. Like
it is
I'm
hard
200
to eat.
pounds.
That's a lot of protein.
That's like,
right.
Like I think 275, 300 grams, right?
It's a lot. So if you were doing like, 2 grams per kilogram and you're 200 pounds, it's almost 1 gram per pound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of food protein wise.
And you can kind of cheat it by doing protein powder or I'd make these protein shakes in the morning that were like 800 calories, but they were like 60 grams of protein.
Boom.
Which I know a lot of people think you can only do 30 grams of protein per every couple hours, but I don't.
I never heard that before.
Have you not?
Mm-mm.
Or what is it? You can do maybe not that. What I read is you can do 30%. 30% of your protein a day can be a supplement. The other 70 needs to be from food.
It's probably a good rule.
Yeah, I think if you lived on I've even watched guys that did on YouTube that did like protein powder, and that's all they had for like a week, and they lost weight.
Oh yeah, because you're malnourished
and they
at that
lost
point.
and they lost muscle, right? So like even though they were eating their 200 grams of protein a day, it was only through I think it might have just been water and protein.
Yeah, that's like malnourishing themselves.
Right. So you've got to have some actual substance. So that was his whole thing was so he wanted to know like if I get my allotted protein a day just off protein powder, how will that affect my body?
Sure.
And it was an interesting video.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was trying to get my brother to do celery for like 2 weeks nonstop and like make a whole video on it. He said he was going to do it, and then he's like, "No, I don't want to do this."
That's pretty hardcore.
I'm like, yeah, why would anybody really want it? It would be a great video for my YouTube channel, but he's like, why don't you do it? I'm like, because I don't want to.
Yeah, right. I know. But no, I think, kind of going back to what we were chatting about programming wise, I find it super fun because you can kind of look at it from an experimental basis of, I break things down and I do what's called block periodization or block programming, where you can have the block however long you want it to be. But what I found that works really well, just in my own experience working with people I'm fortunate to work with, and then talking with a lot of other strength and conditioning professionals that I know, is like if you kind of break everything down, it's like a month cycle, 4-week cycle. And you're never really changing a whole lot, but whether that's you're varying the movements, or you're varying the overall amount of volume you're doing, or you're varying the speed or velocity of which you're moving things, usually one of those 3 things is enough variation to attack the nervous system a little bit differently, to where you can still progress, but not take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Right?
Okay. So you're saying if you're doing like 5 sets of 5, strong as you can go, just trying to build up strength, and you hit a plateau.
Right.
Maybe switching to like less sets, more reps.
You could. Yeah. So this is like the beauty of the art and the science of it. When you look at the nervous system in general, if I were to have you do something new that you haven't done in a long time, or even novel to you, within 2 weeks, your capacity for your brain to talk to your muscle and say, hey, let's do this, gets better within 2 weeks. And even if you haven't improved or gained any muscle, you've improved strength by 20 or 30%, right? And you're like, well, how in the hell did I do that?
I've started doing a lot of 5x5, and I'm like going up in strength.
Right.
But, I've also never done so few reps before.
Well, it just shows the beauty of the nervous system, and like, hey, I have these resources available to me. It just depends on when I'm going to access those resources, aka which muscle fibers in specific I'm recruiting, at what point in time am I recruiting them, right? Those are all just changes that happen from the brain to the muscle, that pathway in which those muscles are being recruited. That's all that's changed within those couple of weeks. And all of a sudden you've gotten stronger, right? So that just shows like what we have innate to us.
How long do you think that pathway takes before it's so adaptable that you need to change
That's
it?
right. That's the key part. And that's where I found like the 4 weeks works really well.
So you think 4 weeks is a little, because, a lot of people say 3 months, or 3 months, right?
Yeah.
12 weeks. We're kind of like change your program every 12 weeks. So you think smaller variation in the change, but sooner change,
Right.
faster change.
And that's just because you also have to deal with the.
Is that how you train? Or is that how do you still have one-on-one clients, or do you still have
Yeah.
strength training clients that you're still working with?
Yep. I do a lot of one-on-one still.
Okay.
The one of the beauties with like the 4 week or month time point is you're still dealing with a human, and if you have them do the same thing over and over and over again, kind of by the time you get to a month, you're like, all right, I need something to change here.
Well, yeah, if it's someone that's not their thing.
If I'm doing bench press again on Monday one more time, I'm going to shoot somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're dealing with like the psychological part of it too.
See, for me, I'm just like, this is what I do. This is what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I could deadlift every 4 days. It doesn't matter to me.
But I also don't need someone standing over my shoulder and holding my hand to get through a workout.
True.
So doesn't mean I don't mind someone. I like working out with people, but some people need more motivation. So I get that.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
I do I do my own my class, and I switch that up every week.
Yep.
So that some of the movements are the same, but there's always enough variation in the class that it never feels like it's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it just makes it fun, right? Because we should be having fun still. The whole point should be fun. Should be a good challenge, but fun.
I thought you're supposed to just get it done.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be fun.
Yeah, check the box. I'm like,
Some days it is.
Sometimes you got to check the box, but overall it should be like a fun challenge of like, what am I worth?
Yeah.
What's my capacity today?
It's been fun because I've never done 5x5. And by the way, guys, that's 5 sets of 5. Most of you probably know what that is.
Yeah, at probably a higher percentage, like what your capacity is, right? You're probably 85-90% of
Well,
what
I've
you
only
can
been
do
doing
in
it for
one
a couple
time.
weeks, so I'm just now starting to get that as you were talking, the signals being sent through the body.
Right.
And so more or less, and I hadn't been lifting super heavy. I've been doing a lot of my classes and like less strength stuff, even though I did a lot of strength last year. So I'm just like in like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm just back to where I was at.
Okay.
Like my squat, I left my squats at 3 sets of 8 at 265. So I do 1 set of 5 at 275, and the other 4 sets got to be 265. And then like my bench, I left it at 3 sets of 8 for 245, and I think I'm at 250 for 5 sets of 5. So it's taken a minute, but I can already see that I'm within a month of doing this, I'll already be. But then we start boot camp next month, so I won't be strength training as much.
Yeah,
And I'll have to start all over again in April.
It's okay.
I don't really have goals other than get stronger, try to look a little bit bigger, and feel good. And I'm not constantly sticking to a program like I probably should.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that I hit every body part 4 or 5 times, 6 times a week.
Yeah, right. That's the key part. And most of the time when I'm working with one of my clients who's really into, hey, let's like try and have a noticeable strength improvement in something every cycle, every month.
I think that's great.
I think that's fun. I think that's fun to shoot for, number one.
Are they not able to do it every couple weeks? A lot of times, are they doing the same weight? Actually, I already know the answer.
Yeah,
because I have this. They could do more.
They could.
They refuse to do more until they really feel confident with that weight.
Yeah, that's true. That's part of
a lot of times.
A lot of times too.
You want some more coffee?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'll sit here and drink the whole damn pint.
But yeah, that's like that's where the fun starts for me. That's when like the real fun conversations start. And so, I'm thinking about like an example to give you. One of the guys I'm working with right now, he's super fun to work with. Probably one of my favorite clients because he's super interested in the process, and we have great conversations about like going back and forth.
So he's learning.
He's
teaching
learning
him.
a ton.
Yes,
and
awesome.
he brings up like because I value how their body feels on a day-to-day basis and comparing that to how it felt like last cycle, right? So I take even before I start the next programming phase, I'm like, you need to tell me everything you learned about your body this phase.
I have like one client that would like take
right?
that time.
It's so fun.
Most of them are just like, just tell me what to do.
He loves it.
So that's great because that's exciting because that means you get to learn.
Super
more, right?
excited. I've learned so much. So we've kind of come up with these formulas of how can I almost trick myself psychologically to get stronger throughout the week compared to like just putting on the same weight and trying to get one more rep or whatever that might look like, right? So we've done these phases of in our movements, the basics always stay the same. We're always doing a squat. We're always doing a deadlift. We're always doing an overhead press. We're always doing some type of major pull, upper body wise. And he likes bench press still. So those 5 are always there.
So is it a full body that you usually have him do?
So we've changed up full body. Some phases we'll do more of like a push pull, legs, shoulders.
How many phases have you guys been through?
We're on our 6th one.
And have you changed it up every month?
Every month we change up the staple movements stay there. We just change up the accessory movements.
Okay.
Right.
And do you ever superset or anything like that?
It's in like a circuit. of usually like 4 or 5
So he's
movements.
moving. He's not. He's got his heart rate up while strength training.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
I think that's the
you
best
have
way.
to. We have to get.
I do supersets with my 5x5.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
which it's hard, makes it harder, but at the
It
same
does.
time, it's like you get some element of
You,
all fitness.
well, you may not go up in strength as fast, but you're pushing your body. When you go from a bench press into a deadlift,
Right. Right. Which is how I do things too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, I like to keep my heart rate up. So if I don't have specific cardio at the end or at the beginning, then my cardio is in the workout.
Right.
I also do a lot of body weight stuff. Not as much lately, but I used to pretty much like, even if I supersetted, I would also have a body weight, like go do 10 pull-ups or
Sure.
go do 25 push-ups. And I would do 100, maybe 30 or 40 pull-ups and 100 push-ups during the workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I found that to be beneficial just for everyday functionality.
Right. Because that's the key part too, is like
Functionality's huge.
Yeah. You don't have a chance, like if you're doing something physical, it's like, oh, I need to wait here for 3 minutes. I need my 3-minute rest. Like, no, you need to keep doing something.
Yes,
You know?
you need to teach, but that's a
Sometimes you
mental.
gotta-
That's a mental thing
Oh, no
too.
doubt.
Knowing that, like, oh, my body can handle more. I'm just not going to allow it to.
No doubt.
Like, I can be uncomfortable for the next. Well, until I'm finished with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like one of my favorite functional movements. I don't know if you ever done it. You take like a chair like this or like a wheel. I bought a wheelchair for the class, and we put like 90 to 135 pounds, or like up 345s, up to 345s, and you have to use your heels and you walk.
Oh,
like
so
this.
hammies are getting attacked.
Well, yeah. So the idea is that you're attacking the hammies functionally. So like you're teaching the hamstrings to build muscle about as elongated and fully functional as, it's better than if you're laying on your stomach and doing one, or you're doing the one where you're pushing
Yeah.
down. Because they're more stationary, where this is just teaching your body, oh, my hamstrings are like building muscle while physically working.
Yeah. I'm having to control joints, control the length of those joints.
But I think that's more beneficial than going down and sitting at a machine.
Oh, functionally for sure.
You may not get strong, or this may not help you get much stronger, but it
Top end strength
makes
or
you
whatever.
it makes you
Yeah.
stronger on your day to day.
Right.
when you need those, and hammies are like a weak point in mine because of my ACL surgery.
Yeah, yeah. And that's another conversation too, is like, do you want to improve your top tier 99, 100% strength that you likely will never use? Or do you want to get really strong and have strength endurance at 95% or 92%
Right.
of your overall top end strength? And that for me is way more important functionally day to day than like, because if you just trained, close to your top end capacity, let's say you're using 95% of your 1 rep max, trying to get 1 to 2 reps for 4 to 6 sets.
Right.
And let's say your bench goes up to 250, right? That's your 1 rep max, 250. Compared to, let's say I use 85% of my 1 rep max and I do 4 sets of 7 or 8, but my 1 rep max only gets up to 243, right? I'm willing to sacrifice those 7 pounds to be able to do something repetitively at a high end in the real
Exactly.
world, right?
That makes sense.
That's the conversation I have with a lot of people, that like we can look at it from that end or this end. Which makes more sense for you to go out and be a person?
Right. And so that I tried to teach was that I really just athletic. Trying to be athletic is like to be as strong, as quick, as controlled, like have all these things. And what is that perfect? Everything's on top of each other. Where's that center point?
Right.
And ideally that's where most people should want to be.
I think so. Yeah.
So, because you see bodybuilders, and they're nowhere near as functional as like a strength trained person. And a bodybuilder may not be able to lift half the weight that someone that does strength that's half
true.
their size, cut up, but
Yeah.
just like tiny.
That shows you
compared to them.
the specificity part
Yeah.
right there, right?
I was watching videos on YouTube, and there's this one guy, and he dresses up as a janitor, and he'll go around and clean. He'll walk up to someone doing like deadlifts, and they're all doing like 500, 600 pound deadlifts, some huge bodybuilder. And he'll be like, oh, can I clean? So they'll get out of the way, and he'll clean around it. And then he'll be like, oh, this is in the way. So then he just picks up the
Lifts it
600
up.
pounds, drops it, cleans, picks it up. And literally their expression are like
right.
what just happened? Because he's tiny.
Yeah, it
he's
doesn't
like
look-
he's like a fourth of the size of these guys. But yeah, again, it's pretty funny videos because he does it to a lot of people.
That's awesome.
Or he'll act like he doesn't know what he's doing, and then someone's like trying to help him, and then all of a sudden he does some stupid weight, and they're like, what?
Is this good? Is that
Yeah,
good?
it's like, is that?
Oh man. Yeah. But yeah, no, the
Functionality though.
functionalities. Yeah, for me that's important. There was a day when I was 20 or 22, and it's just like, let's see how strong I can possibly get.
Right.
And that was cool for a while, but like, beyond that, what's the use of all your effort?
Do you ever train just straight up mobility?
It's something in the past I have. Yeah.
So that's the one thing I'd say I lack the most in is like, I think that's one thing that's extremely important that probably most of us don't do enough of.
Oh, 100%. We should be doing some version of that every day.
There should be, like, Mike Gardner, Fire Life Mike, I think on Instagram. That's what that's kind of his shtick.
Okay.
Is like whatever the national functionality, there's like an academy or something that's, it's the more research, they've really looked into it, and you can kind of follow their teachings. But I've been to a couple of his classes. Half an hour of torture, man. Because my body's just so, like, the stuff they make you do is like, oh, I thought I was functional.
Yeah.
But there's a 10-minute routine that he says do it every morning when you wake up, and I don't.
Yeah, well, the part with like the flexibility and mobility part that's the one that takes the longest to notice an improvement. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I can't throw another 5 pounds in the bar. But I got stronger.
Flexibility, you can get within 2 weeks. You'll notice a difference. If you put 20 minutes aside every day and you just really stretched, or you did yoga you did some kind of yoga,
you would notice.
And within 2 weeks, you would notice that. But yeah, I mean, strength, the only way you notice that is just
put some more on. Can I get more reps?
Can I get 10 more pounds, please?
Yeah. I know, right? So I don't know. For me, it's the fun part because you get to combine like the mental part with the physical part. And if you're changing that up, you're always keeping like that body brain awareness. I think that's the key part.
I would say that if more people out there had mental toughness, you may find you could push harder.
Yeah.
I think there's a lack of true mental toughness. And so like if you had better mental toughness and you can, so you're not fighting yourself. If you hate going to the gym every day, but you keep going and you're just fighting yourself. You're making it harder. But if you just accept that that's what you're going to do and you try to find a way to like it and have that mental toughness of like, I'm just going to give everything I've got, I think you'll see a change.
Yeah.
That too. Which I'm sure like you just said, something you probably teach within your
for sure
programs.
Yeah. There's like a recalibrating of your expectation to begin with. Right. But then I think one of the most important themes around movement in general is that people have such a bad relationship with it because they've just had, terrible education on why they're doing it. It's always like, get better at this sport, get more skilled at this, understand the rules of this sport. What does it have to do with just general fitness and health, right? I'm thinking of just going through school and physical education and stuff. Teaches you nothing about like lifelong fitness and why you're doing it. Nobody has the connection between the why. Once you establish a super strong why that's a truth and you can't argue it, so much easier to put yourself in that position to say, hey, exercise feels pretty good today. I'm going to make that choice to do it, regardless of how hard it is, right?
Well, I've met very few people that once they've done it for 4 weeks to 8 weeks and been consistent, let's say 3 to 5 times a week, that doesn't, like, they notice a difference. Even if they quit, they're like, oh, like I notice a difference in my body.
Yeah.
Like, I take 3 days off and I have a mental breakdown, let alone what my body's going through.
Right, because it's such an important part. You understand that connect. It's not just physical.
I went down to Alabama for 5 days and didn't work out at all one time. And literally, I think I was depressed by the time I got back.
Sure.
I was happy to be back. Or I had a blast going down and visiting friends and family and had a really good time. But like that next day I got back, it was like the first thing I did. Like I almost
wait
felt
to
sick.
get in there. Yeah, I'm the same. We take vacations. I bring kettlebells.
Well, that and it was during Christmas, so all I did is eat. Like I just gorged. For like a week straight.
Probably were sick.
I probably was. It was when they had that bad cold front. I actually got stuck there an extra day because of it.
Yeah,
I had to wait because it hit Florida too.
The gym is the medicine, man. That's part of the medicine.
Yeah. So, so is that pretty much all your clients? Are you doing the 4-week thing? You change it up every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Is there any clients that you have a longer? Like competitive people, you would train them differently, right? If they're in some kind of competitive bodybuilding to body composition to whatever, you would have them trained differently, I would think, right?
So, sometimes, but most of 99% are probably a 4-week cycle.
Really?
And even though I say it's 4 weeks, it's not like I'm drastically changing things.
Right. You're making minimal because you say you do the 4. But you said you always do what, shoulder press?
Well, as part of it's always going to have overhead for most people, just in general. Overhead press, some kind of upper body pull, a squat, and a hinge of some kind.
Is overhead press and military the same thing, right?
Yeah, pretty much whatever you want to call it. Okay. Yeah. I think those are kind of staples that you always should have there.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, right. But this is where you can start to keep people's interest in that. You can change the velocity of eccentric and concentric repetitions, right? How quickly are you lowering?
So do you give them a count, like a 3 to 5 count, or 5 or?
So if we're playing around with velocity, it might be like, let's just do a typical 2 second this month. Next month, let's try and do 4 second eccentric lowering phase, concentrically, intentionally with intent. How quick can I get to the top, right?
So does every one of your programs have a count then? I don't follow one per se for myself.
Yeah, not always. Majority of the time, it's like, let's do what's comfortable in what you're capable of doing with proper technique.
Okay.
Right, which is usually like a 1 or 2 second lower and 1 or 2 second press. Right, just
that's
typical.
probably what mine is.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Most of the time, that's what it is. Because when you start changing velocity, number one, you're mentally locked in because it's hard. And once you start elongating eccentric wise, you're increasing that time under tension phase so much and loading the muscle for so much longer that sneakily increases your volume, even though volume's the same. You've done 4 times the amount of work, right?
But over time, like initially, it feels like you're not going to be able to go up at all, and then all of a sudden, you realize you're like, oh.
Yeah, you blow that person up for like 2 weeks, and then they get like, oh my gosh, I'm like super strong. This next phase. So the next phase,
it is smart.
Yeah,
but it is not fun.
Right, it's not fun. So that's where it's like 4 weeks of that's enough. And then it's like, okay, now we've gotten X number stronger, or we've done whatever that might look like. I don't go straight into like, let's see what your work, like, let's see what we just did. I kind of do like a buffer phase of let's kick it out to like RPE 7 to 8, rating of perceived exertion, right? Do you do much work with that?
No.
So I've almost done a shift from programming like percentage of your 1 rep max to using RPE specifically. So rating of perceived exertion.
Okay.
How hard do you think you're working?
Okay.
Right. So from 1 to 10, 1 being minimal, 10 being this is all I got, right? And you can look at that through any number of rep range. So if I say I want you to do 10 reps at an RPE of 7, so it's a little bit of a learning process because it's very subjective,
right?
But it really reinforces like you're always going back and forth between mentally and physically, like how hard am I working? What's it feel like? How hard am I working? What's it feel like? Do I have more? Or is this all I got? Right. So if it says, I say like, let's do 7 to 8 RPE for 10 reps. You get to 10 reps, you could probably get 2 or 3 more before you start to fail. Right. So you can kind of incrementally increase your RPE throughout a working set or working sets to where you can say, start out at 7, work to 8 to 9, finish out with 10. Right. So
you're doing more reps by the end,
or you're doing less reps, more weight.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes. That's how I usually do it that way, right?
That makes sense.
Or you could be more reps, depending
so
how you want to
program.
You
don't always just stick to, all right, we're doing 225 today. And
right.
We're doing 4 sets of this or 3 sets of that. Okay.
I usually work through up to a certain point.
Do you find that, so do you figure out what everybody's 1 max rep is for everything?
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't know if because that's what you're basing some of the
I used to. That was kind of the point because there's so much research behind that. But here's my biggest problem with that is that our body is never the same every day. You've been to the point where you put 200 pounds in the bar and bench pressed it, and you could do it 1,000 times.
Right.
You do
that would be impressive, though.
It felt easy, right?
I'd get some mad followers on the internet for that one.
Mad.
They probably make fake plays.
Yeah, the little styrofoam one.
I don't even think I could do a styrofoam one. Probably. I mean, my arms would get tired before I got to 1,000 of it. It was a pound.
Yeah, but it was easy. Like 200 pounds was easy. But then you come back next week and you put 200 pounds in, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can barely get 5. Right. So it puts you in the moment in time of, if I said go do 80% of your 1 rep max, but I want you can always get 8. You come in a crappy day, you're only getting 4 reps, right? So you're never working at your fullest capacity with what you're bringing to the table each day. But if I say go to 8 RPE, we can always maximize that compared to how you feel. Some days are going to be amazing, some days are going to be crappy, but you're always kind of maximizing your potential each day. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
So you do that a lot with a lot of your clients?
I do with most of my clients now, with the RPE.
Are you face-to-face, or do you do a lot of online?
It's all online.
Okay.
All virtual.
So you don't get a chance to actually, because there are things you could probably do. Do you guys do video, though, sometimes?
Sometimes they'll send video, and sometimes we'll do some live stuff, but majority of the time it's them on their own, reporting back and having conversations and stuff like that.
Okay.
I use a lot of Marco Polo.
Are you still growing?
That before?
No. What is that? I use Trainerize.
Okay. This is just I'll show it to you.
Is it similar to Trainerize?
No, it's like basically a voice text where you can like pull up somebody You can talk to them like, "Hey, I'm talking to you right now. We're chatting."
Oh my gosh!
And then boom, they open it up.
I
and
had
it's
that a long time ago
Yeah.
when it first came out.
It
My
was-
family
I
used
did
it
too.
all the time.
And it was stupid because people just used it for dumb stuff.
Yeah.
But now I use it for business wise, and it's way more like I get immediate feedback from this person, and I can send a video and not have to worry about like is it gonna make it
That's
through a
not a-
text or whatever, you know. So
That's not a bad idea.
people have really enjoyed it because they get that
forgot about
immediate
it.
feedback, right? I know.
It
Yeah.
was very popular because we had like a group one, so people would add stuff. Mm-hmm. So every day you'd get on, you're like, "Oh, my sister Tears has said something in the group," or "My brother."
Yep.
And then I don't know what happened, but we stopped using it at some point in time.
So my clients like it. So I've continued to use
Okay.
it. So that gets some of they'll send me some videos and stuff through that, which is nice. To get some actual feedback of movement or technique or whatever.
Right. Do you have many clients that are ground zero, or most of your clients have some formal understanding of fitness?
I've
and
got
training?
some who have never lifted a weight before.
Really?
Yeah. So that's where programming really comes into key.
Well, yeah, you've got to teach. You
Yeah.
gotta-
So you have to really start at like very basic stuff that if I don't have my hands on them in person, I feel comfortable with them doing this without me being there.
Right.
Right. That's where like just having a toolbox to use helps. And I've gotten a lot of referrals lately. I kind of team up with different physicians all over the place, and I've got a really good contact who has his own kind of concierge practice, and he deals a lot with osteoporosis.
Okay.
So I've got like 60 to 70-year-old people coming to me that have never exercised before and are trying to improve bone health through exercise, right? And properly loading them to get to a point where we're seeing some results. So I've gotten quite a few of them.
That takes some
recently.
time, though.
Takes some time, but they're ready to, they're like, I understand that.
What age group?
60 and older.
They are comfortable with the interwebs?
Mm-hmm.
Because
They
that's
are.
probably the biggest thing is at that age group, the knowledge base.
It is.
To make
So you
the
got to keep
online
it, you got to
thing-
keep it simple.
Yeah.
You got to keep it easy.
Do you do phone calls with them a lot, though, too?
Every week.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Have the face to face,
Right.
which is nice. But you almost need to because at that point it's like
Well,
I'm
you're teaching
kind of
them,
in
right?
charge of this person's like not getting hurt.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah, right. You understand like this is the right way to do it, and they've surprisingly have done really well with what you think tech would be in a person of older
Right.
vintage.
Well, so I worked at a retirement home training, and some of the people I worked with would definitely.
Not be there. I know, right?
So the sad thing is, at that age group, they're so far behind the curve. It's not; they're not too far, but
Right.
there are a couple that were too far. But it's like you're just trying to slow down the progression, not
Yeah.
even maintain. It's just like let's just slow this from happening because you're in such feeble position that like there's only so much I can do for you.
Right. But at the same time, like they notice improvement because you realize how low the low was. You know,
Yeah, exactly. And so
Yeah.
we would track like leg press and all this. I mean, I had now it was I don't know how the PSI works for leg press, but
like
it was
the
like a
pneumatic
PSI
machines.
it was a PSI of I think one of my clients got to 215. So I don't know what that. I'm thinking it's supposed to be 215 pounds of pressure.
no idea.
I don't know. But he was 104 years old.
That's incredible, right? Muscle is muscle, man. It still
He's
still
an
responds.
old Army vet that just like World War II vet. It's like
Ready to
he's gonna
attack
be.
it.
He is gonna be alive when I'm on my deathbed.
No
still.
kidding. Yeah, no kidding.
He's just not gonna die.
Let me use the bathroom. real
Yeah,
quick.
go for it.
Oh, it's coffee.
Yep, it'll hit you. I can use it after you. What?
The boot camp. He's gonna boot camp it.
Oh, you gonna do it?
I said I would.
All right, that's awesome.
I would have tried.
You should come to one of our classes
I
sometime.
know.
We do them Sundays 11 a.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:15 p.m. So I don't know if any of those times ever work for you. You're welcome.
At
to
some
come
point, it
anytime.
would. Once I get past the newborn stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel. Have I told you the format that I use for it?
I think you did last
Yeah.
time. You have to remind me.
So it's 3 cardio devices, and it's usually like a assault bike, a battle rope, a jump rope, box jump, run, like 0.2 mile, third of a mile run. Then you got 2 legs, which a lot of times legs are between leg extensions, squats, walking lunges. And then we'll come up with some other random leg exercises as well, like wall sits for a minute. Whew, no one likes those.
Nobody.
It's,
One of my
it's a
clients-
long time
One
to
of my
wall
clients
sit.
just texted me about a wall sit. He was like, "I hate you."
They suck. They're so shitty. But especially in the middle of a workout, if you don't do them early on and your legs
Yeah.
are already tired,
Yep.
then you have one shoulder, one back, one chest, one arm, and then 2 body weight, 2 core usually, and then 1 dynamic movement, 1 functional movement. And the dynamic or functional movement would be something like, sometimes I'll do like 20 pounds slam ball, and then you got to do 2 squats, and then pick it up and do it. Or the worst one I do is a slam and then burpee and then up. And
that's not good.
That's 1 rep. Or jumping over a box and making people do burpees.
Yeah.
But it dynamically and it makes your body move in a way that it's not used to moving, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I had to do this 30 times.
Right.
Ideally, in real life, if you had to do something like that, your body's like, okay, I've done this before.
True. You have to get off the ground. People need to get off the ground still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, some people they're not in the best of shape. Like that's the cool thing I like about my classes. So far, I've been able to modify it for anybody and everybody that's come in. Mm-hmm. So, some people, there's certain exercises I'm like, don't even do it. Just skip it.
Yeah, it's fine. There's a modifier for anything.
Exactly. Or like some people, like we were doing pistol squats one day, and I was like, oh, we're just gonna do a squat. Like just skip the pistol squat, just do a squat because But for the people that have been doing it for, I think I have 3 people that have been doing it with me for close to 6 months now.
Nice.
And they compositionally look different. Mm-hmm. And one of them I'm starting to get annoyed at because even though he can't complete the workouts, he makes them harder. So I'll do like we had this one thing that I do. It's real basic. You go down on 2 knees. So you stand up and you have to just work your way down to where you're on both knees and then work your way back up. And that counts as 1 rep. It's just a basic functional movement, keeping our balance. Like something but when you got to do 50 of those.
It's a lot.
It is. And so we're doing them. And I look over at him one day and he's got a 40-pound sandbag and he's doing it. And I'm like, God, you can't even finish these workouts. Why are you making it harder?
Hey, it's simple.
But he's done this multiple times, like taking an exercise I've given people and then figured out a way to add weight to it.
People don't think simple.
I think it's like
work.
a thing for him now.
Yeah.
But it took him a while to get over the mental toughness. Now, unless I tell him to stop after an hour, he'll go till he finishes. Like he's just mentally like, my body hurts, but I'm there. I just can't get there fast enough. But
right.
But I really do respect him because I don't think fitness was really his thing until he started doing workouts, and now he's like modifying it.
Yeah, right.
To make things more difficult.
It's easy to get addicted to. There's a lot of good things happening.
It is. So how many clients do you train?
I usually keep.
Or do you have you can only fit so many on your roster?
Yeah, just because the time and attention I want to give to them is probably more than I should, but it's okay. So I usually keep a roster of like 8 to 12, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Of one-on-ones. Usually a couple of times throughout the year, I'll do more of a group where I'll do like live workouts throughout the week, and just have kind of that group environment going on. Because some people don't want the one-on-one and some people don't want the group. So you gotta offer both. I'm getting into a whole different entrepreneurial world of doing like men's retreats. So I'm holding the first one here in April. It's actually in Lexington.
Okay.
One of my buddies.
What is the purpose of the retreat?
It's kind of like we're going to try and do 2 a year. My friend, he's a retired Department of Homeland Security agent, and he does like online fitness and stuff now, but he lives in Texas. And we kind of want to have like a space for men, entrepreneur type people, and do like something like, we call it like rugged and refined, where we do like a hike somewhere, wherever we are, one day, and make it like this cool outdoor experience, just, whatever that might look like. And then the next day do something like more like refined, like where we experience the culture of the scene or the city or whatever, and just have time to like share ideas and bounce off different perspectives off each other and whatever that might look like, right?
So you like charging for the retreat?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cause we're staying at nice places and doing fun stuff, and it all costs money.
Have us come do photo and video for you.
Right.
To promote the next one.
Yeah. So he wanted to come to Lexington because he wants to hike at the Gorge, because I always go to the Gorge and hike. So
it's a phenomenal place to hike.
Amazing.
I love it.
So I've gotten a whole private acreage out there hike lined up for all of Saturday, which is going to be incredible. It's April 14th to the 17th. And then the next day we're doing Keeneland and some bourbon tours and stuff like that. It's going to be awesome.
That will be awesome.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a positive, guys, like...
Yep. Just get away from technology. Don't even bring your phone, just kind of get out and just experience it and just kind of hang out with some guys.
That'll be fun.
So I'm getting into that a little bit. And then I'm also, my sister-in-law, funny enough, she's this phenomenal life coach. She was a MD for 10 years.
Okay.
Burnout, hated it, wanted to actually treat people the way she wanted to treat them, So she started this life coaching practice, and it's doing really well. And so she brings other coaches in to help with her clients that she works with. So I do that as well. So I kind of like, it's just a really broad spectrum.
Is life coaching something that you're kind of phasing into or going into?
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, so I probably have. It
seems to be the progression
crazy
for a lot of fitness people.
It does.
Well, I think we life coach already, right? To a certain extent. Like we're not a licensed therapist, but I give advice.
Yeah.
And I'm giving advice on things.
As
like
we should.
I have, you know, like you got older clients. Mm-hmm. Like you get to know, I don't know how long you've had them, but I'm sure you've had a couple that you've had for a while. They've got all kinds of advice to give.
They do.
Because they want to know about you. They're like, well, what's going on?
I know, right?
What's going on? Like there was a girl I was dating one time and I was talking to the guy about it and he's like, get away from it now. And I'm like, what? And he's like, this is the reason. This is what you told me. And I'm like, really? And he's like, and then 2 weeks later, same thing happens. Oh man, he really has been down this road.
Yeah, right. So I think it naturally progresses into that because exercise is such a big part of our lives if we let it be.
Right.
And then we realize, how much better can this actually be? Right. How good am I going to let things be? You know?
Well, I think we learn, I think fitness opens up a door for us on a more positive, open-minded, at least for me.
100%.
The way I look at life. So then I'm like, well, what if I can fix this aspect of my life with a little bit of physical fitness, how else can I improve my life? And I think you find that people that work out, they're generally more positive people.
100%. I would agree with that.
So, most of the people I hang out with, they're fitness people.
Yeah,
a lot of them are fitness-related people, but it's because they're just such a joy to be around most of the time.
Yeah. We just kind of have that level of understanding of like, hey, you're willing to work to make things better. That's going to start to shift.
Not everybody exudes positivity like Keenan over here, though.
They can
Oh, man. He's going to hate me after next week.
Exudes.
Oh, man. But no, yeah. So I think that's great, though.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of coaching with her and through her other coaches of like, you know, just understanding.
Well, how long have you been in the fitness world?
Forever.
Like over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like some of that just like I like to life coach, but I also think I need more experience. Like I need to get to a point where I feel like I have some value to give people.
Well, and
I'm still learning myself.
I think just doing it, in the process of doing it, that's where the learning is. Right.
And it's just another business I got to put time and effort into branding.
It does.
Kind of.
It does.
I've got a million other.
Yeah.
It's so much on my plate.
Yeah. So it's a broad, and then, you know, I do this in minimal hours per week just because I like to be with my kids more and that kind of stuff. But I would always love to put more time and attention to it.
Do you track the time you put into work every week? Like stuff that is hobby work, like...
Yeah, I mean, my podcast is a hobby, but it kind of brings me business at the same time. It's still work, but it doesn't feel like work.
It brings you indirect money.
Exactly. I try and do things that I think are fun because I feel like I just bring a better presence to it, and then good things happen after.
100%.
You know, so I think all the stuff I do, and it doesn't feel like work to me at all.
Right. So like this podcast for me is like I would be doing this as a hobby for fun, but it also has benefits in life too, like entrepreneurial benefits. But this is something I look forward to do every time.
Right? Yeah. So if everything is like that,
right?
How much cooler can it be than that?
Life's good.
Right? Exactly. So that's kind of what I shoot for. So sometimes like I'll have 3 hours a day to work at something. Sometimes I'll have like 8 12-minute chunks per day to do something. But I probably average like, I don't know, between an hour and a half and 3 hours of work every day.
Oh, that's it?
But like 7 days a week.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but when you really break it down, I get more work done in that time frame than I used to at a 50-hour per week job.
Because those an hour and a half to 3 hours, you're at 100%.
Laser beam. Yeah.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Like there are some days I'm like, I got so much to do. And I wake up early. I go to the coffee shop. A lot of it's administrative, sending out invoices, emailing people, setting up shoots, maybe answering people like filled out stuff on my website that are interested in getting trained. Like, and I'm thinking this is going to take me days. And then like 4 hours later, I'm like, oh,
done with everything.
Shit. Okay, there's something wrong here. I know I have more to do.
Right?
Like I know. And sometimes there is. Sometimes I'll be driving. I'm like, oh shit, that's why I finished so fast. I did not work on that project.
But majority of the time, like you're getting more done in less time. Like
I don't waste
the value
time.
of what you're bringing.
I'm not going to
sit
sit there and waste time. Like, okay, so when you're at a job, like the average person at a job, they're 8 hours they're there. I would love to know how much.
Yeah,
time
they're not
on
responsible
their phone.
for bringing their own money in.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to know how much time they're on the phone in the restroom, like doing multiple different distracting things from their job. I mean, they're still able to do their job.
Right. It's probably more than 50% of the time, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I sit down for that hour and a half to 3 hours or 4 hours, like it's 100, like
100%.
it's like 90, 95%. Like this is all I'm focused on.
Yeah.
But then you go to coffee shops and you get into, I get into some awesome conversations.
That's true. It's part of the deal. But you're in flow more. And I think us subconsciously crave flow. It's hard to get into, but once you're there, it's like,
and there is
time doesn't exist.
Certain type of person that is just entrepreneurial in general.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So like it's the way my brain works. I functions better that way.
100%. And you're not going to get paid unless you do it. So you better
it's on
do
me,
it.
right? Yeah.
know?
But do you ever just work on things and you're just like, this could make me money one day. Like this is, I feel like it needs to get done, but it's also like, you know what I mean? Like, is this a waste of time? Because I've also spent a lot of time working on something I thought was going to benefit me down the line. I was like, oh, that was wasted 20 hours.
Yeah. But still, you probably took something away from it.
Yeah,
That's the key part.
Sure.
Yeah. It's all just kind of structuring how you're looking at it. For me, it's obviously if you're not getting paid immediately from it, if you enjoy it and you love it and it's bringing value to something outside of you, at some point that is going to.
And that's why I continue to do this.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't make money, I mean, I've made money from the podcast by people I've met and things that we've done outside of the podcast.
That's never the intent, though.
No, that's the thing. It's kind of a...
That's the beauty.
It's a beautiful little thing that comes of it. But I enjoy this, man.
Yeah, I do too. The podcast space is the best space. You know, anytime I'm asked to get on one or ask somebody else, it's always just like so fun.
What got you into doing a podcast? Like what got you doing your podcast? Because I know you like to do a lot of research.
Yeah.
And you write papers too, right?
I've written papers. I've been published. I'm writing a book right now.
How many times have you been published?
Not very many.
Okay.
A couple times.
Is it exercise science related?
It's
usually?
it's in scientific literature.
Okay.
That nobody's going to read.
Except other scientists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that was like kind of the initial thought behind my podcast was like, one of my favorite things doing in grad school was I had a really cool advisor where once a week we just pick out a random article that sounded cool. And we'd sit down like Thursday at noon, eat our lunch, and just like, hey, what did we find in this article? Just kind of nerd out on it.
Okay.
Right. So I got kind of hooked to that because it's just fun to see what people are doing first off, and then really seeing what humans are capable of doing and what happens when you read some of these research articles. Right. So I always love that. I'm a teacher at heart, love teaching, but I've gotten out of the academia world. So when I was thinking like, how can I still like bring that fun into my life of like what I love to do and we'll bring it to my own space when I can do it whenever I want. And it was just like 9:00 at night on a random like weekday. I was like, I should start a podcast. I Googled like who can host, right? How much does it cost? Laid out a 2-minute intro at like 9:30 at night. And that's when my podcast started.
It's not that expensive, really.
$12 a month is what I pay for it. I do Buzzsprout.
I don't even know what that is.
It's just the hosting.
Okay.
It's my hosting site. I pay $12 a month and I get 3 hours per month of downloads, and then it shoots it out to whatever I want to put on. So I put Apple iTunes. I do.
Have you looked at Anchor?
I've heard of Anchor.
It's free.
Is it?
I upload everything to Anchor.
That's not bad.
I don't know if there's other features you get with Buzzsprout, but Anchor doesn't cost anything, and they just allowed it to where I can upload video. So all this will be, when we cut the video, we upload it to Anchor, and then it sends it out to everything.
I'll have to check it out.
So like all of our Spotify, like this will be if people listen to this on Spotify, they can also watch it.
Oh, cool.
At the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I'd have to look into that. Buzzsprout's been good to me. I think they do have other services that I'm not
guessing there are
using.
other things that
because there's stuff in there built in to like monetize.
Do you do the podcast itself through Buzzsprout?
No, you just record it wherever and then upload it to.
Okay,
and it does it. Yeah, so it's worked well.
How many episodes do you got now?
Oh man, I think I've got like 60-ish, maybe 60 plus. I try and do like 2 to 3 a month. Is kind of my goal. And this is my 3rd season. I just started this 3rd year of doing it.
What do you do, like 12 episodes per season or something?
No, I think I've got 26 to 32, something like 25 to 35, something like that.
Okay.
Per I just do the year. From
January for whatever it is.
January to December,
year.
I just call it a season.
That makes sense.
Just to kind of categorize it.
Do you get views? You get pretty good views?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get like per episode, I probably get between like 80 to 150.
That's fantastic.
Not terrible for just a dude sitting in his garage talking.
Like 30, 40 views. So we'll get there though. I think a lot of it's just time, consistency.
It is.
And having awesome people like you on.
That's the key. I think if you do it long enough, this is my good friend who I'm doing these guys retreats with. Him and his wife started this business like over 10 years ago, and they're making like 7 figures plus doing this business now. But he says like his friends or people he meets, they think he's this overnight success from like making money. And he's like, well, it's funny how after 10 years, I finally became an overnight success.
No, but it is true.
Yeah, he's like, I'm so relentless for a decade where I made like nothing to all of a sudden, like you start to build and you end up
Snowball
where you are.
Effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me 10 years, or close to 10 years, to get to a point where I could 100% work for myself. Yeah. I didn't have to have like a part-time job at the mall or somewhere.
Exactly.
Just making an extra $500-600 a month just to cover what I need to cover.
Yep. But who's willing to do that? That takes some serious patience, serious dedication.
I don't want to work for people. Like my disdain for working for another person is so high that it's like I'm just never going to give up. until I make enough money to live off.
That's where it's at.
Or I end up on the streets, one of the two.
And you're fine either way because you're going to make it.
Yeah,
you know
there's no way I'm going to fail. Yeah. I mean, I might have small failures, but I'll learn from those. And I'll have even more success.
100%, man. Once you get to that level of like, you look at everything is on a spectrum for me. It's going to be the absolute amazing most outcome I can possibly have, or it's going to be the worst. I'm willing to accept both. Once you get to that level, majority of the time, you're on the good end of the spectrum.
I do try to be really good because I have a tendency to be negative about things. Like I'll think about something that would be positive and I'll think of it in a negative way. Like what if I'll think of the failure first before the success, and I've been trying to be better about, because I do believe if you believe in success and you believe, like if I honestly believe if a person just thinks their whole life they're going to have cancer at 50 years old, I genuinely believe that they somehow get cancer if they believe that that's,
Yeah.
And I believe that if you believe, and I don't know if this is true, but to a certain extent, I believe if you believe that you can eradicate the cancer and you
it's happened before,
you'll need to make changes, probably, what you eat, certain things. But I think you have a better chance at instead of being depressed about having cancer, but being like, okay, I've got it. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to be positive about it. You have a better chance at a better outcome.
Yep.
Mindset is...
It's everything. And if you look at, like, you get played by your human nature all the time. Mainly, if you look at humans, we've survived a long time through a lot of crap, right?
Yeah.
So, like, our innate capacity to survive is unmatched by anything, right? But when you're in survival mode all the time, you're constantly in negativity because you're always thinking you're being attacked by something. You're always looking
around. We're really not in survival mode
anymore.
But
most 95% of people are living in survival mode right now. Right?
I know. Isn't it crazy?
Once you break free from that and realize, like, like where you and I are right now, we're willing to accept this or this because I know I can be here.
Right.
If I'm here, I'm going to figure out how to get here because I've done it before, right? Most people are so afraid of here that they're always living just right here.
Yeah, but you get enough of those people living right there, believing like this, that will change the whole world.
Which is where we are right now.
So I really do think that we're going to have World War III probably sometime in the near future because I think so many other people believe that it's going to happen. Like the news keeps pushing it down, and I feel like if the whole world is like, oh, there's going to be a World War III.
I don't think many people are watching the news.
But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like a lot of what's being put out there in the media is like World War III and like all these really negative things. And I think if we get behind that and we believe it, right?
Yep.
That it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't think many people are behind it, though. They want you to think many people are behind it.
And maybe that's it. So I'd like to think that we're all going to get along.
I think so, too. I think we will.
I really hope. I have a buddy, the guy, he's a professor at EKU. And he's a firm believer that there's a alien civilization that watches over us. And he thinks that if we get to a point where we could do mass destruction to the earth, that they're going to step in. He really believes it.
Really?
I'm like, hey, man, that sounds good to me. Like if he wants to step in and keep Russia or anybody else from shooting their nukes, and they're out for our good, come on.
Yeah. Hey.
I mean, there's only one. I would hope they're going to be out for our good if they're stepping in to keep us from killing ourselves. But then we'd probably try to kill them, and they'd be like, what the? All right.
It's a vicious cycle.
You guys are ants.
I just keep training so I can fend off the robots at some point.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a chance that we may end up at some point in time in our life have to go into some, there's a lot of belief. I was listening to a financial analyst, and he contracts with the government, but he thinks that we're at about our peak and we're actually going to degress a little bit. We're going to hit a point because he also thinks there's like these major materials are about to become unavailable. And if we don't have other materials, we can't continue to grow. It was interesting.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, Nick, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me again. It's fun to see you.
It is
to be a returning guest.
Yeah. Well, we've changed up so much since you were last year.
I like it a lot.
We got to step the production up.
Looks good.
But no, I appreciate you coming back. I really wanted to have you back on and after listening to my first podcast with you, I was like, I can do better than this.
Hey, every time you get a little bit better.
You do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And as always, guys, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, man.